Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Advocacy. Tonight we have Bunny with me as my co-host. Hey, Bunny. We also have Jeff and Samantha Deloso. So what we're going to do is jump right into the subject. Samantha and Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Yeah, I'll let you talk.
Okay, let me talk. Okay. Well, Jeff and I have been married for 20 years. We have two children who are both 24. When we got married, we're a blended family. So my daughter and his son are 5 months apart in age. We don't consider them his and hers, though. We are their parents. Full stop.
Yep.
Neither one of the other parents is involved in their lives at all. Connor is our son who has a disability. He has an intellectual disability, and he lives with us, and we are his guardians. And we just, I guess, are here to kind of talk about what our ride has been with him, and then maybe even touch on some of the issues we've had with our daughter, who has some mental health challenges that we've also had to address.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I guess just personally, I guess we can add, I'm a social worker by trade. So it helps to have some knowledge of resources and services and stuff that are out there. I honestly don't know how folks who don't have that knowledge figure it out, because it's tough, even for somebody who has even worked in the field, which I have. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to talk about your experience with Connor and how you came to be his only parent until I married you.
Yeah. I it was Connor was born a month premature. It was an emergency C-section. And then he spent about a month in the NICU.
NICU, yes.
And was under an oxygen bubble because there are still things, his lungs still needed to develop a little bit more. But they noticed even when he was in vitro that there was something abnormal. They were doing measurements and it just didn't look right. So eventually, when he left the NICU, he came home. He was still really tiny, kind of looked like an old man, just the way he looked. And the doctor, there was one point I had to take him back to the hospital for failure to thrive because he just wasn't gaining any weight. And through those first 4 months, we had setting up therapies for him, and then had the machines that came home with him. And then we were seeing his pediatrician just to keep tabs on him. And they were constantly saying, we had to wake him up at every 3 hours to feed him, even if he wasn't ready to be fed, or if he was sleeping, you had to make sure that he got fed. And that was just to push it. And eventually that became an issue between, his biological mother and myself. And I kicked her out when he was about 4 months old. And I took care of him, until I met Samantha. I did have the help of my parents because I ended up moving in with them for a while. And they were a great support. And then I luckily, was able to meet her, and it just kind of met, just fit. Right.
Yeah.
So
how old was Connor when you met Samantha?
Connor was 3. He had just turned 3 when we met, and our daughter was still 2. because like I said, they're 5 months apart. So we met in the summer between the two birthdays.
And it was actually that birthday party that Jillian met the rest of my family at her birthday party.
Yeah.
So that's how
we'd been dating for a couple months then.
Yeah.
And then when we got married, Connor had turned 4 in April, and we got married that following June. And so Jillian was still 3 at the time. And I think it's important to note that, it's not just a matter of Jeff having, kicked out his biological mother. They actually, they had custody, went to custody court and all that kind of stuff. And she eventually just said that she was ready to sign her rights away, that she had no relationship with him and had no intention of having a relationship with him, and just terminated her parental rights of her own free will. So, so she had no interest in having any relationship with him.
Right.
And presumably because of, his special needs.
He wasn't reacting or doing things that a normal child, in terms of the stages that they're supposed to hit,
the milestones and everything.
Yeah. And she couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
She bowed out really quickly. She really didn't give it a chance to learn how to care for him. This is the first I'm hearing that the mom left and the dad stayed. So that's why I applaud you for that, because you don't hear that often, that dad stays. So I applaud you for staying and going through that journey, because I know it's not been easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. But like I say, the payoff was I eventually got to meet her, and and we've had a great family since then. Of course, like with every family, you have hills or peaks and valleys. Things come up. You don't agree all the time and all that good stuff, but
but the foundation is good. That's what it all comes down to. The foundation is good.
Yeah.
So, and I know you guys may have said it earlier, I don't know, but what's their ages now? Connor's age, and what's your daughter's name again?
Her name is Jillian, and they're both 24. They're both
okay.
24. Yeah.
Okay.
So Connor is now, he had early intervention services when he was, when he was little. He then went into a special needs preschool program. And then he went through all of the, special education all through school, graduated at 21. He's got DDA services in place now, which is really great. That's really sort of the only place that we get any relief from having to care for him. He's doing well. He's doing well medically, which is amazing. We did eventually find out that he has a genetic disorder called cardiofaciocutaneous syndrome, CFC for short. It's a very, very, very rare case. And, we're lucky to have that diagnosis, but a lot of the kids that have that diagnosis do not fare as well medically as he has. They have heart issues. Some of them have very limited lifespans. We haven't had any of the, Connor has sort of outgrown any of the heart conditions that a lot of the kids have. But he also, a lot of the other kids have, mental capabilities, that are a little bit higher than his. Mm-hmm. And so he even lags behind, the cohort of folks that have the same genetic disorder that he does. So, we're talking about a 24-year-old. Luckily, he's small for his age. I say that pretty frequently. He's probably the size of about the average 13-year-old in terms of his height. And I'm sorry, there's a cat.
It's okay. It's okay.
And but he has some behaviors. He has the intellectual and developmental disabilities, but he also has co-occurring autism and ADHD. So sometimes behaviors are a little bit of a challenge. He doesn't always see the world in the same way that we do. He doesn't always express his needs and wants and desires in
is he verbal?
He is.
He is limited.
Yeah.
We understand him.
Okay.
And he can express his needs verbally pretty well to us. He has a relatively large vocabulary. He just is not easily understood by anyone who's here with him. And then sometimes, honestly, I think that his brain maybe works a little bit faster than what his mouth can. So we don't always get the, if you ask him questions, sometimes it's just easier for him to say, I don't know, than to actually think about how he's going to respond and give you a response to something. And but other than that, I mean, everybody who meets him loves him. He's constantly smiling. He's very friendly. He is a fantastic caretaker for our cats that we've had a visit from. He loves animals, babies. He loves to take care of plants. He loves to help out around the house. He's funny as all get out. Some of the things that come out of his mouth, like you don't even think that he's paying attention, and he'll just, he'll say something, and every once in a while, Jeff and I will just look at each other and say, how would he know that was funny? Like, you don't expect him to know that, and really almost sometimes pretty complex jokes. And we're like, where did that come from? Right. But it's been a long haul, and there's been a lot of parent advocacy on our part, to make sure that he has all of the things that he needs in school, in in life now. We recently went through a change in day program because the day program that we had just really wasn't suiting him well. We tried it out. We tried it for a year. We really tried to make it work, but it just wasn't the right fit for him.
Well, we've really lucked out, especially in his teachers that we've had. Mm-hmm. He first started down in Florida, and his teacher there was just wonderful. She knew how to relate to him, and that kind of introduced him to the social world. And then that carried through where, we ended up moving to Pennsylvania, and received a lot of services there for him. Even, he was getting occupational and physical therapy. And there was even options for all sorts of stuff like music therapy and things like that unfortunately we just couldn't find the time for. But his teacher in Pennsylvania, she helped us potty train him. We moved there and he was what? 7, and he was still in pull-ups, and his teacher was like, oh no, mm-hmm. that's not gonna fly. He can do it. Mm-hmm. He knows what he's doing. And we were just like, okay, we'll listen to you.
Yeah. and that was a huge help for us too, because we couldn't find any sort of after school programs for him until he was potty trained. And so
really?
Yeah.
Even with him having special needs, it still was a requirement to be potty trained?
Yes. Yep. So I couldn't work the first, year and a half.
Easily.
Yeah. That we were in Pennsylvania, because I had to be home with him. And then once he was potty trained, I was able to go back to work, full time, and we were able to find someplace for him. But even with that, there was some advocacy. His behavior started to become an issue. They started to say that they didn't know if they could continue to keep him at the after school program. And we ended up we also got wraparound services when we were in Pennsylvania, which was very nice. wraparound behavioral services. And we started having the behavioral aide that had been coming to the house go to the daycare with him.
I was about to ask, can you explain what wraparound services are for our listeners?
So they're pretty common with kids who have mental health issues, and they're generally paid for through Medicaid. Some of the other insurances will pay for them too, but usually there's a team of professionals when there's behavioral health, mental health issues that will come in. It's, like a therapeutic aide, and then also a therapist and a psychiatrist are part of a team that develop a treatment plan for him. And then we would see the therapist about once a week. She would come by the house and create behavior plans for him, or check on the behavior plans that were in place for him. And the aide was then kind of tasked with working with him to develop the skills to be able to change his behaviors, basically. It was basic behavior therapy. And
did it help?
To a certain degree, maybe. It helped us in that it kept him in daycare. But I think to a certain degree it did. They really focused a lot on redirection, and also we're probably the first ones who really focused on getting him to try to use his words and verbalize when something was upsetting him rather than acting out. So I think that was helpful.
Yeah, he was doing the other, I don't know if you mentioned it, but he does do self-injurious behavior. Mm-hmm. So when he does get frustrated, when he does get upset with himself, he might slap his leg if he's not walking fast enough, or if his mouth's, if you can't understand him, he might slap his mouth and tell his mouth to work better or something like that. And if it's really extreme, he'll actually bite his arm. And he's broken the skin a few times.
Many times.
Well, many times. He has scars.
Probably at least once a week.
But there again, we go through the whole process of, trying to find alternatives, because that's what it is redirecting that behavior. So what's going to be best? And we had to go through a lot of iterations of, okay, would it help if he had something else to bite on? Something like a rubber hose. Yeah, that did not work at all. Would it help if he had like a toy, like a fidget spinner or something like that could occupy him? That really didn't work. What we eventually found was he just needed a clean break. He needed a walk. He needed to kind of, whatever was upsetting him, he kind of just needed to pause and get away from it. And sometimes the best way, especially in high school, they would just take him for a walk around the building.
Talking about high school, I do want to kind of go back a little bit because I was going to ask about school. How was school, start elementary, middle to high school? Did he have to go to certain schools or just be put into a particular classroom? What was his schooling like?
Yeah, his schooling, he started, I'll go to where he started at a nursery and then moved over to what they called the big house, which was about when they were getting ready for pre-K. And that place actually said they couldn't service him anymore, because we had one instance where they were painting and they put washing detergent in their paint to help it come out of the clothes easier. And they turned their back one time and he took a swig of it. And, and so after that incident, they said, yeah, we can't, he needs to have somebody watching him all the time. We can't do that. He needs somewhere else. And that's where we got him into, that was Gretchen Everhart.
Mm-hmm. We got him into Gretchen Everhart.
Yeah. That was actually a specialized school.
It was a specialized school. That was in Florida.
Yep.
And so in Florida, all school systems are different in all of the states. They're all run differently. Even the structures of the school districts are different within different states, which a lot of people don't realize. But in Florida, for kids who are at the level that Connor was at, they generally tend to put them into specialized schools. There's not, at least at that time, I don't know if they've made any changes since then. We're talking, almost 20 years ago. But at that time, they were very much, I call it warehoused. They were not allowed to attend their community schools. They were placed in special schools.
So did Jillian go to the same school with Connor, or did you have to go 2 different routes for both of them?
We went 2 different routes because Jillian was, on the, kind of on the other end of things, even though she has mental health issues, which developed later in life. She was always very bright. She was always top of her class. She's got a little bit of the ADHD, which caused her some problems and a lot of attitude.
A lot of her, she shared with her dad,
which caused her some attitude. But she always, she excelled at school. So they went to different schools. So they went to different schools in Florida. And then when we moved to Pennsylvania, they could serve him at one of the community schools, but it wasn't the one we were zoned for.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So they were in the same school district, but again, Jillian went to the school that was, half a mile from our house, and Connor had to get on the bus every day and ride across town to a school that was probably about 15, 20 minutes from our house. And then, but that was a community school, and they made every effort to make sure that all of his needs were met.
And that's where, as I say, that was, I can't remember her name, but
Mrs. Novosel.
Mrs. Novosel. and she was that's the great thing is she was not only, advocating for her students, she was an advocate for improvements to the system.
Yes.
So it was nice having a teacher that could kind of relate, to where understanding of the struggles that the parents were having in terms of getting services or having their kids' needs met. When we moved to Pennsylvania, Connor had chipped his tooth, and one of the things we were trying to do that was down in Florida. He chipped his tooth, and it took about 6 months, maybe even longer, to get him a dental appointment because they would have to sedate him to fix it. Because he just couldn't understand what was going on. He, just couldn't sit there and keep his mouth open to have it fixed. And then it was also a kind of a struggle to find a dentist in Pennsylvania, wasn't it? And I
think that's all of our struggles.
I was about to say, I think that's all of our states.
We're struggling with that again. We're struggling with that again.
Did you guys move to Pennsylvania to get better care for Connor and Jillian?
No,
we lucked out.
Yeah, we did luck out. Jeff got offered a job. He was finishing up a school. I had finished up with my master's degree a few years earlier. He was finishing up a school, and he got hired on to a firm in Pennsylvania. So we lived there outside of Pittsburgh for about 5 years. And the structure there of the services is that they don't consider the parents, if a child has a disability, they don't consider the parents' income at all in consideration for if the child qualifies for Medicaid.
That makes sense. It makes sense because how far can your income stretch with the needs, of these individuals? And I think it's so sad that a lot of parents have to go from state to state to find better care for their special needs, because it's almost like you are tasked between them and the rest of your family.
Absolutely.
And all the services are expensive. The clothing, the equipment, everything is expensive. And I just don't understand why, regardless of income level, parents aren't giving some sort of resources and help.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
Exactly.
crazy.
Yeah. And we were actually looking to possibly move out of state in Maryland, because all of my extended family lives in Kentucky. But there again, there was no way we could go to Kentucky because the services that Connor would be eligible for, there's waiting lists.
There's waiting list upon waiting list upon
Yeah.
waiting list.
And then we were
Yeah.
looking at the surrounding states
Don't
because
come to Maryland.
it would be nice to be around family, and it was like, well, what's Indiana? What's Illinois? And that's one of the things you have to consider,
Right.
when you have a special needs child is, there are certain states that you can't go to just because there's no point. You can't, you won't be able to function because you need, to make sure that he has a day program, and there might not even have a day program established anywhere in the state. And it's like, so you're kind of,
You're
you have to be very
between a rock and a hard place for real.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
and I will say, most people say that Maryland and DC and Virginia are some of the best ones. You'd be surprised, Bunny. I know you said don't come to Maryland.
Yeah, because
but
it
you
seems
would
like
be,
it's a waiting list for everything
yeah,
here as
it
well. So it
is.
must not be, the waiting list must not be as long as some of the other places
Well,
then.
I think the services that they offer is more than what some other states even offer.
Got you.
So I
Okay.
think, of course, the waiting list, I think it's waiting list for the most part everywhere because the need is becoming so great. But I
Yeah.
just think in other states, they don't even offer a lot.
right.
So
That's
you
Wow.
true.
don't have, yeah.
And then in some states, whereas like Pennsylvania, so he had planned Medicaid services, which is different than the waiver services. So he was able to get, his behavioral health, mental health services. He was able to get they had a specialized summer program for kids with behavioral health services or with behavioral health needs, which he had because of the autism diagnosis. So he was actually qualifying for those services because of his autism diagnosis, his behavioral health diagnosis, as opposed to his IDD. And then in both Pennsylvania and Maryland, the one good thing about Maryland is that they do hold slots in the waiver for kids that are graduating from a Maryland public school.
Mhm.
So that's how he got his DDA services when he graduated from Maryland. We moved to Maryland. He no longer qualified for the Medicaid services. He was back just on our regular medical plan for all of his medical needs. And so we had no waiver services. He was on the wait list for the DDA services. He was on the wait list for the autism waiver services. He was on, all of these wait lists for services for funding. We didn't qualify for anything because once we moved to Maryland, they considered our income too high, which it was like, but do you know how much it costs to live here?
Exactly.
I understand, I understand on paper, it looks like we make a pretty good income. And probably if we lived in another state, we'd be living pretty well. But we're living paycheck to paycheck, just like everybody else, because our rent when we moved to Maryland was double what we were paying in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we had to wait for him to have any sort of services, disability services, until he graduated at 21.
So he was never on the autism waiver. He's
No.
never been. Wow.
No. So then when he graduated, he got the waiver services. We were living in Montgomery County at that point. And he had good services because it's a large county with a lot of service providers with a lot of money. So usually more money for in different counties equates to more funding for different service providers, and we did really well there for probably about a year and a half or so. And then we moved to Frederick County and we had to change service providers and find service providers that would serve him in Frederick County. And that was a little bit of a struggle just because they don't have the same kind of resources.
And and to me, it's not that far. Montgomery County and Frederick, it's not that far. It's not like you go on to another state.
Yeah.
That's just really crazy. But I do have a question with regards to the relationship of Connor and Jillian. What is their relationship like growing up? Was it trial and error, trying to get used to how to get them together? What was their relationship like growing up?
Their relationship, you want to say it was kind of like a typical brother and sister, but it wasn't. I mean, Jillian would try to engage with Connor. She would try, especially at a young age, she'd be like, Connor, let's go do this. Connor, let's, and she had to learn, that nope, he didn't want to do it. He didn't even want to pay attention to her. He would just walk the other way. He wanted to do his own thing. So eventually it just turned into where I think it was, how do I want to say this? Where they could be in each other's space, but only for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it would get into Jillian did this, Connor, and it was more Jillian did this, Jillian did this, Jillian did this.
Did Jillian ever feel that she wasn't getting enough attention from you guys? Did you guys have to go through any of that?
Yeah, we did. And I think we felt that too. I mean, there were plenty of times that, when we would have any sort of help, because of course, when we moved from Florida to Pennsylvania, we moved away from family. We haven't lived near any sort of family or outside support for 17 years now. So, we do get, and that's not to say that his family doesn't help. My parents, unfortunately, are passed away at this point. But that's not to say that his parents and his sister don't help where they can, but they live out in Kentucky. So there's not, so we can, they do help us out where they can, but we're talking about, a couple weeks out of the year, 2-3 weeks out of the year that they can maybe, provide us some relief. The rest of that time is on us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Jillian and Connor relationship.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I think that when we first met, they were, even though Connor was obviously not at her level, I think that they were able to engage with each other but then as she started to sort of mature past him, it became a little bit more difficult for the two of them to interact. And then I think when things really went south, was when, she sort of got into a position where she could almost be like in a more caregiving role for him. And now he doesn't understand, like, well, this is my sister, like, she is supposed to be my equal, but you're leaving me with her and with her in charge. And, so there were actually quite a few times that, she was really the first person that he was ever very physically violent with. That was another, he does self-injurious behaviors. But he would just out of nowhere become physically aggressive towards her because he would get so angry at her, telling him to do something or trying to be, even trying to be helpful in some way. He saw it as, it was problematic for him.
Yeah.
So, and I know that at times, Jillian has said to me, I could be such a good sister to Connor if he would just let me.
Yep.
Aww.
Because she has that desire. She, she has reached out. She, would do things with him like, knowing that he loves animals, knowing that he loves dogs. She would like have one of her friends bring their dog over so that he could play with the dog. And, or she would like try to create special opportunities for him. Like once she started driving, she would like take him out for ice cream or something, just the two of them. So as she's gotten older, and especially I think since she's been out of the house, because of course she's been out of the house except for during COVID, since she was 18, so she's sort of like a visitor at this point. Now he seems like she's visiting us, for the next few days, and he seems happy to see her, but still he's not really engaging with her. No. It's kind of like a hi, Jillian, you're cute. That's what he says. Instead of getting in trouble for saying something mean to somebody, he has now replaced that with you're cute. So
they're like worlds apart. And I say that with my son and my daughter. Maybe it's different because my son is older and Morgan is younger. So she loves to be nurtured. And I mean, when he comes around, she changes. Oh, she's just this pathetic little girl. And she just loves his attention. So I think it may be a little different because they're like 4.5 years apart. And Morgan likes to be babied. But I think it may be a little different because he's a boy and she's a girl. So it becomes like another mother. So I can see how that happens. And then I think with Morgan, she's nonverbal and she's intellectually further along, a lot behind Jeremy. So I think when you're sitting here and you're talking about the two, I can kind of see the frustration that he may exhibit. I mean, it's not to say he doesn't love her, but like you say, he looks at her like we should be equal. And sometimes we don't realize that they're a lot more intelligent than what they're letting on. So some things he knows that he's not up to par. And to see her, kind of growing out and him sitting back and he's not able to do the things that she's doing, it could be hard for her. It's hard for him as well.
Yeah, we had for a little while, my father-in-law made the joke because when Jillian graduated from high school, she got accepted into University of Louisville and she moved out to Louisville, which is where they live. They live out in Louisville, Kentucky. And my father-in-law made a joke at one point of, well, Connor can't wait to graduate because he thinks when you graduate, you get to move out to Louisville and live closer to grandma and grandpa. And I don't know if there's something to that. There may have been in his worldview that might be the case that, Jillian got to move to Louisville when she graduated, and now I get to move closer to grandma and grandpa when I graduate, which didn't happen.
Right. But what boggles me with that is that's a complex thought. Like to put that all together, just that. And, I've wished it, and I know Sam's probably wished it too, is what's going on inside there. Because there's a lot more going on inside his head. And that's where I want to, I've always wanted to meet that person.
I'm right there with you with my grandson.
I think we all could say that, yeah.
Yes, my grandson is 8 years old. He's autistic, nonverbal, and he just was potty trained like within the last 6 months. So yes, I would love to live in that brain of his just to see how it functions.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that he'll either do on his own, especially like sometimes just navigating. He has an iPad and just navigating that, YouTube to find or wherever he's looking to find what he's looking for.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does that. I really don't, but he's figured it out somehow.
Yeah. Like how does he find all his favorite, cartoons and shows and stuff on YouTube or wherever he's looking for it when he can't spell. The iPad, the way he speaks, the iPad doesn't recognize the words that he's saying. How does he find these things? And yet he does. How did he find, he loves elevators, and we're able to find videos of elevators on YouTube.
They are so smart. They are so smart.
They are.
And that's where, it's internal is like, that's where he figured it out. And it's like, okay, I want to know how you did that. I want to hear what are you thinking inside your brain?
And he makes so many adaptations for himself that just astound us both every day. Like, how in the world did he figure out how to do that? And to the point that, there are times when, I can't think of one right now, but there are times when something has happened in the house and we ask each other, like, did you do this? No. Did you do this? No. And he's the only other person in the house. So it
It's
had to
him.
be him.
So it has to be.
How did he do that? How did he figure that out? You know?
He was, when we first got the kittens, he wanted to have them come up to his room. So it was one morning, he came downstairs by himself, was it their treats?
It was their treats.
It was their treats. Got their treats and actually went, and made a trail, like a path, from the kitchen, up the stairs, down the hallway to his room. So the cats would come to his room. How did he figure that out?
They are smart. That's how I'm like,
We didn't know
that. The fact that he put that together and he planned it, I mean, that is amazing.
Right. Yeah. Well, and not only did he plan it, but he planned the sneaking out of his room and sneaking downstairs to get the treats and not making any noise with the treats. Because, the treats, when you shake them, are pretty loud. Like, so that he could do all of this without us knowing. And of course, I wake up and I start coming down the stairs. He's in his room. I'm coming down the stairs and I'm like, that's weird. Why is there a cat treat on the stairs? And then I go down a few more stairs and I'm like, there's another cat treat there. That's weird. Right?
That is so funny. I can relate to you guys so much because Grayson, he sneaks in the refrigerator. He'll get ice cream and real quiet about it. Mm-hmm. I'm in my office and he'll sneak in there, or he'll go get some chips, but he'll go in a spot where he can't be heard to open up the chips, put them in a bowl, put the chips back in the pantry, go to the table and quiet. The whole time it's just quiet out there. So that's why I'm like, okay, it's a little too quiet out there. What is he doing? They are so smart with everything that they do. And I'm just like, what's inside of that brain of theirs?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but getting back to the question of with Jillian and Connor being so different, and then the attention with paying to Jillian, one of the things that we actually started between her and I is besides sharing activities where she wanted to play softball, so I was her coach on her team.
Okay.
We would actually plan outings where it would be the two of us, just the two of us going to a baseball.
Very good. Very good.
Or going to see if there was a movie that we wanted to see. We would go see the movie together. Mm-hmm. So you have to plan, that special time for that other one. So you can keep that balance, because not only does it give me a break from Connor and dealing with that stress, and Sam takes that on, I actually get to cultivate the relationship with my daughter,
I love that.
Yeah. And growing that. And there again, between Jillian and I, we've had some uphills and valleys. But to where we are right now, we're in a really good place, her and I, and it's great. We have our own jokes. We have our own, the way we talk to each other. And I'm proud of what she's turned out.
It's a juggling act. It's a juggling act. It really is. And there are times that, I think people think that we all have it all together, but we don't. We're trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And it's trial and error. It really is. But you're trying to get everybody what they need. But sometimes you don't always have what you need. And it's like, I'm working off of a half glass, and I'm giving the full glass to someone else. So I think just like with anybody else, it's a juggling act. But I think it's just the difference is when you don't really know and understand the full person, and you're still trying to get to know that person. It's like, it's more trial, it's more error. So I think, from what I'm hearing, you guys are just like any other family. You're just trying to make it. One question I did want to ask about the cats. Do you think that Connor has a closer relation? Because sometimes they relate to the animals more. What do you think that, because I know with Bunny, Grayson and Morgan used to have the stuffed animals, and we used to call them her friends. Do you think that he kind of looks at the cats as someone that they may feel like they understand each other?
One of the cats is his buddy. And he'll even say, that's my baby. And there was one day, for the most part, the cats kind of ignore him a little bit. The one will, if he hears Connor awake during, because Connor usually wakes up before everybody else, of course, right? That's all of us have that issue, I'm sure. But if when he hears Connor awake, he'll go and he'll hang out with Connor for a little while. One of them absolutely wants nothing to do with him, and then one of them kind of puts up with it, but is not. He's not jazzed about it, but he doesn't, lash out at all. But there is one of them, Bucky, does have a pretty special relationship with him, and he'll even if Connor comes home from his day program and doesn't immediately, go over and pet Bucky will start yelling at him.
Yep.
Like he'll start meowing at him, like, what is going on with you? Like, you're supposed to come say hi to me before you do anything.
Yep.
And I think they need that friendship. That's where it's so. And the reason why I asked that is before, most of our special needs individuals, they're in their world of their own. And a lot of the times that's one thing that I feel like that they don't have is that friendship, And so I think that they find things, whether it's their little stuffed animals or what have you, they do have, they desire those friendships and those, those bonds. And I think that sometimes they're searching around to find them where they can, but that just shows that social part is so important. We just kind of minimize that so much, but most of our special needs community, they do lack that friendship or that bond that they have, like our neurotypical kids have. They are not accepted a lot of places. They feel like they're on the outside. So I think a lot of the times they look for it in other things.
Right.
Well, I remember when he was involved in high school, he was involved with the Best Buddies program. And he was invited over to his best buddy's house for the day, or for a couple hours anyway. And I was in tears pulling away because he was 14 years old and had never gone to play at a friend's house.
See, they're lacking that. Even the sleepovers. When you think about that with my son Jeremy, he had the sleepovers, he had the friends, he had the birthday party invitations. These are the things that a lot of these individuals, they're not getting those things. And that's hard. That's a big part of sometimes they're acting out. And I know my daughter, she wants attention all the time. It can be overwhelming for us because as parents, you become not just their parents, but you become their friends because you're the friends that they don't have.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, that's, from day one, it's been Connor and I. So he is my shadow.
Yeah.
So he constantly wants to know where I'm going. What am I doing? Why are you going there? And if I'm outside, working on the yard, he'll sit and watch me from the glass window,
Or he'll go outside and try to help.
Or he'll come outside and help. And sometimes I'll let him come out just so he can get outside. Especially if it's something that I can kind of still pay attention to him and still, continue to do.
When we see how that breaks sometimes, and I looked at Jeremy, my son, and I think when I had Morgan was because Jeremy thought of me as his best friend. He wanted me to play Connect Four with him all the time. He wanted me to do everything. And that's when I was like, oh, I have to have another child because God knows. And we were snowed in. And I was like, oh no, I'm not playing this. But I look back at that and I see that like when we're snowed in, I'm Morgan's everything. Just like you say, Jeff, I'm her playmate. She wants me to play with her all the time. And you know how as parents, and I'm going to be honest, sometimes I just want to sit on the couch with the remote and I don't feel like playing.
Yes.
Yeah, but you become their everything. And I guess people don't really think about how that can be overwhelming for you as a parent, the fact that they look at you as everything, you know. And
Right.
when they have those friends and they be like, oh, Ma, I'll be back. I'm going to my friend. And Jeremy does that. And now I'm like, gosh, I wish you had more time for your mommy. But I like, what is it? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Yeah,
Mhm.
but these individuals, they don't have friends. They don't. And that's
Mhm.
a big part of, what's being missing out of that whole your special needs individuals. It can be really hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Talking about friends, Paula, you talk about them having friends. So, Jeff and Sam, what do you guys do together for fun? Do you get to go out? You got date nights? How do you guys
We
enjoy each
do.
other?
We do. We have, especially now that he gets some personal support hours. It was a much harder before we had the personal support hours. But now we do. He goes out on Saturday afternoon. Connor goes out on Saturday afternoons with a caregiver, and so Jeff and I will go see a movie in the middle of the afternoon. And then even before he had that, there were times when, we would each take a day off from work, like take a vacation day from work just so that we could spend time together, just the two of us. Like I said, we call on our family some, his folks, what was it, last year? We went out to St. Louis for a couple of days. We had gone to Louisville, and we left Connor with his parents for a couple of days, and we drove out to St. Louis because he had gone to school in St. Louis and I had never been there, so he just wanted to show me the city. But it's little opportunities like that, just calling on whatever supports we can to be able to have that time to the two of us. And we'll sit and watch TV together, just take those little opportunities.
But the bigger, like actually getting away from everything and spending time together, that's just it's happened one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had to call my folks and I had to figure out a way to get Connor to my folks. And to make this happen. And I called, and it's kind of a funny story because on the other end of it, I asked my folks and they were like, yeah, of course. And my mom told me that it was like, whatever Jeff's asking about, say yes to.
Well, that was when we went to Las Vegas.
Yeah, because what we were able to do was, and that was actually
they came out
from Louisville and spent the week, because it was for me to go to a conference, and I wanted to take Sam with me so we could have some time in fun in Vegas, because that's where the conference was, and take a couple of days. And they came out, and it was during the school year, and so they had to still get up and go to school and get on the buses. And, my folks came out and helped with that. And we're like, yeah, go. You guys need to spend that time. And mm-hmm. I mean, we had a blast and it was great. But those big ones, that's where the difficulty lies.
They're few and far between. We also had, I think about, we went to New York with some friends for a few days when our kids were 5. So we're talking about 19 years ago. And we had this very carefully orchestrated system of, okay, well, on this day, this person will pick up Connor from school. We had a little bit of, I think, babysitting, like we had a babysitter or something that helped out a little bit. His folks helped out. My folks helped out because they were both living at the time.
Sarah helped out.
My folks helped out with Jillian. So it was this very carefully orchestrated, from this time to this time, this person is watching the kids. And from this time to this time, these people have Jillian and these people have Connor. And then, and that's how we had to do it for 4 days in New York. And then the only other time that we've really gotten away was the Thanksgiving before my father passed away. There again, we took Connor out to his folks, dropped him off in Louisville, flew from Louisville to Florida, to spend a few days with my dad, and then flew back from Florida to Louisville, and then and then came back here with Connor.
Right. And unfortunately, I mean, having help with extended family helping out like that, my parents aren't getting any younger.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was sitting here thinking, like,
it's
how
getting
can your parents deal with his behavior? Because sometimes
exactly
it's a lot. Yeah.
it is.
My daughter
It
has
is.
behavioral, so it's hard. Like you guys, if we go somewhere, it's tag teaming it. And for the most part, my mom is 75. So getting it here and there is okay. Watching her so she can go like going to sleep. But when you're talking about physically handling them, it can be overwhelming for me. So I know at times it can be overwhelming for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But but it's not always going to be there. So that option's not always going to be there. And to be honest with you, we can't afford to pay for a babysitter because there's no other services that could watch him overnight, or for days or something like that. So we could actually have a vacation like that. And
does he qualify for respite?
He does qualify for respite, but there again, the problem is finding the provider.
Yep.
So we could get it added to his plan, no problem. But we've had respite in the past, and we've used it very seldom because they're really
the people. It's a community, and I will say, it definitely is a community. It's getting and trusting, because when you're not around family, but getting to meet people that you can trust, because as we know, sometimes you can meet people and people are the nicest people, but then it wouldn't be most people that say they want to harm your child, they don't wear a shirt that says that. So
Right.
you can't, especially when it comes to our special needs individuals. And me and my Morgan's godmother say this all the time. I don't let everybody keep her. Morgan has her behaviors. You don't know what people will do to her as a result of her behaviors.
Right.
So for me, you can't just leave them with anybody. You can't.
Yeah. And that, I mean, from day one, from when Connor started going to Gretchen, that's something that's always lurking in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when everyone's gone?
Yeah. So
that's just, when I say this has been awesome. I know we don't have much time, but I feel like we have just scratched the surface, because I think and these are my closing remarks. I think Samantha and Jeff, you are dealing with what everyone else, I think so many parents that we talk to, these are real life issues that when you think about your special needs individuals, you're like, okay, what happens if something happens to me? What happens, like you're married. Can I get away sometime? Sometimes it's more work than what it's worth then to just throw your hands up and say, let's just don't go anywhere, because you do need a break. But how do you get that break? You love your special needs individuals. And I think sometimes with that, you feel a little guilty because you do need a break from them. And that's just real. It really is. But I just want to commend you guys, because, I mean, you're doing it. All it is just one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. And I just commend you guys for, giving Connor and Julian the love and the support that they need. While in some ways you're kind of depriving yourselves of getting some of the things that you need as a result of being in parents. But guess what? There's a reward waiting for us parents. I do believe that. There is a reward waiting for us, because everybody can't do this. This is not for the crybabies. This is not for it's not for them, because at this point, this is hard work. You love them, but it's hard work. And I just commend you guys and tell you, because some of the things that you described, I'm dealing with Morgan. At least he's a little verbal, but she's not verbal, but it's trying to figure out what's wrong. Why are you crying? Trying to, me and my husband putting our heads together. Then my son coming in. So again, these are people that my listeners, I just want you to really know, this is why we have advocacy, because these are real life issues that most people do not think about. When you see us come out and you see us, don't think that it's, oh, y'all just do such a great job. We come, I appreciate that, but it's hard work behind the scenes. It is hard work. So
Yep.
again, Samantha and Jeff, I appreciate you guys being on here. I appreciate you guys being so transparent. I pray blessings upon your household. I pray that Connor continues to get what he needs and Julian continues to get what she needs. But most importantly, I pray for you guys to get some of that time to yourself so you can get what you need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
This has been absolutely amazing. Just from the beginning, just hearing the story. It's not too often you can find two people to blend families with some of the similar, issues. But you guys blended the families, you're working together. And that's what's most important, that you're working together. It's one team with, the different members of that team, but you're
Mhm.
working together. And I applaud the work that you're doing. I'm a caregiver to my autistic grandson, so I understand the journey, the struggles, the issues, the behavior, the nonverbal um, issues that we've got to deal with on, what does he need? Why is he doing this? And like Paula said, why is he crying? What does he need? So I definitely prayers to your family as well, that you guys can get some relief, get some sleep, because people don't understand. Sometimes we're sleep deprived, no
Oh
matter
yeah.
Big time.
how old
Yep.
our individuals that with different abilities are. We're still up at night. We're still trying to figure
Yes.
out, what we need to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for your story. And
Thank you.
Jillian and Connor are definitely blessed to have the two of you as mom and dad
Thank
and
Thank
as
you.
you.
their advocates.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep. You want to share
So
your
Jeff,
your
yes,
last,
Jeff and
yeah.
Samantha, give us something to even think about. Close us out, and tell some other parents that's just starting off this journey how they can make it through this.
Sure. What I would say is, number one, you are your child's best advocate. You know your child better than anybody else. And, as much as, you might be tired and you might, just there be days that you don't think you can take on anything else, be aware of, what the laws are, if you can. Be aware of what the schools are supposed to be providing. Be aware of, what the laws are in terms of, even services in your area, those kinds of things. And advocate for your child. We didn't really get into Jillian very much, but
No.
that's our story with her, is, really having to stay on top of the school, to provide her with the services that she needed to be successful in school. And the other thing that I will say is, just use your support systems as best as you can. And you know what, like you guys were saying, sometimes you're going to be tired. There are going to be days that you're tired. And there are going to be days that you feel like you cannot go on. I can't tell you how many times I've turned to Jeff and I've said, I don't know if I can live like this for the rest of my life.
Yep.
But you do what you have to for your child. I think I saw somebody, and I think it was on Facebook or Instagram or something, and it was a quote about, stop telling me how strong I am and give me the help I need. And that's, and I agree with that, maybe we are angels on this earth, but on the other hand, we're still human beings who need to sleep sometimes.
Yep.
And it's hard when you have somebody in your house that's waking up at 4 or 5 o'clock every single morning that can't be left to his own devices.
That's right.
And, I mean, I guess that's just what I have to say. Love your babies, but understand that we all get that it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. That I would agree 100%, and I've gone through those. There were a lot. I know there were a lot of days, especially when Connor was little, that it was tough for me. And the one thing I would think of is, I think of him, and it'd be like, no, I got to do it. I got to get out of bed today. I got to, it's somebody's got to do it.
That's
Nobody
real
else
talk.
can do
That's
it.
real talk.
That's real.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that there's nothing better than, especially with Connor, for me, was, when he was little, I'd open the door and there'd be a great big smile,
Oh.
and it's like, okay, that's right there is why you do it. So, and luckily I was able to find a great partner to do it with,
Yes.
it's been very,
Well, you guys don't look like what
eye-opening.
you've been through. You guys look great. I just
Yeah.
want to tell you that you look great.
Thank
You
you.
do. I really do. I'm not just saying that. I do. I do believe that you, just some of the things that you said, yeah, you look great. And just like I say, keep up the good work. I mean, and again, guys, Advocacy is here for that reason, to encourage, uplift, and empower our parents, because again, we are just like Jeff said, somebody got to do it. God gave these kids to us. It was meant for us to do it.
That's
So
right.
let's get it done one step at a time. Let's listen. And my son was talking this week, and this is just my last little thing, but we were talking about encouraging people. We was talking about the Dallas Cowboy player that killed himself, and it just led me to just talk to my son, and I'm like, are you happy? He was like, I am. And we just started talking about what we are happy and thankful for. So I just look at this and say, guys, sometimes things can look worse than what it is. Don't feel like you can't do this journey. Just deal with one day at a time, one day at a time. And like they say, more importantly, we're here to encourage. We're here to encourage. Morgan is 21, Connor and Julian is 24, Grayson is 9, right? 8. So guys, don't think that we have it all together. We don't. But that's where we come as a community, to come together and encourage one another. So I just say that to say, please, and my shirt is Be Bright, Be Bold Advocacy. Be bright and be bold, because guess what? That's what we have to do stepping into this world. We got to be bright and we got to be bold. Pat somebody on the back, encourage somebody, be somebody that's going to uplift somebody today. And that's what my son said. He said, Mom, every day I look at this and I wonder, who can I uplift? Who can I encourage? I should never go through the day with the mindset that I'm going to tear somebody's day down. Guess what, guys? That's what we're here for. We got to encourage each other, even if it's not where you have a special needs individual, but I'm here to encourage you. I'm here to uplift you. So I just say that to say, guys, thank you so much again for coming on Advocacy, because this is the whole purpose of Advocacy.
That's it.
To educate, empower, and uplift our parents. Okay.
And we will always advocate for our individuals with disabilities.
Always.
We will always advocate for
Pride
them.
and all, bloodshot eyes and all, but we gonna do it.
That's right.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, so guys, I thank you guys again for coming on. I pray that everyone has a great weekend. Great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you guys.
Yes, nice meeting you. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.